Math, lesson 102. Read this number. This number is read 6 41/100. If you multiply this number by 10, the answer would be 64 1/10. If you multiply this number by 100, the answer would be 641. '83. If you divide this number by 10, the answer would be 8 3/10. If you divide this number by 100, the answer would be 83/100. Open your workbook to lesson 102 and find part 1. There are 6 problems here in workbook lesson 102 part 1. You're going to multiply or divide decimal values by 10, 100, or 1000. You'll write the new decimal value below each problem. Problem A, 125 thousandths. The directions in the parentheses say to multiply by 100. Figure out where the new decimal point will be and write the answer below. Pause the video now to work problem A. The answer for problem A is 12 5/10. Here's what you should have. Problem B, 11 8/10. The directions say to divide by 100. Pause the video now to work the problem. The new decimal value is 118 thousandths. Work the rest of the problems. Pause the video now to do so. Problem C, you divided 152 by 10. The new decimal value is 15 2/10. Problem D, you multiplied 91 thousandths by 100. The new decimal value is 9 1/10. E, you multiplied 17 600ths by 10. The new decimal value is 170 6/10. F, you divided 116 by 1000. The new decimal value is 116 thousandths. Open your textbook now to lesson 102 and find part 1. Pause the video now to get there. There are 2 problems. Problem A, 679 divided by 18. Copy the problem. Underline the digits for the first division problem you work. Work that problem, then work the problem for the ones digit of the answer. Pause the video now to work the problem. The first division problem you worked is 67 divided by 18. The first digit of the answer is 3. You brought down the 9. The second division problem you worked is 139 divided by 18. The second digit of the answer is 7. The answer to the whole problem is 37 13/18. Your remainder goes up here. Your denominator for your remainder is always the number you divide by. Here is what you should have for problem A. Problem B, 1,736 divided by 62. Copy the problem. Underline the digits for the first division problem you work. Work that problem. Then work the problem for the ones digit of the answer. Pause the video now to do the work. Let's check your work. The first division problem you worked is 173 divided by 62. The first digit of the answer is 2. You brought down this 6 to here. The second division problem you worked is 496 divided by, you guessed it, 62. The second digit of the answer is 8. The answer to the whole problem is 28, because 28 times 62 is 496. 496 minus 496 equals 0, so you have no remainder. Now let's switch gears to probability. Here's a picture of a spinner. When you take a trial with a spinner, you spin the wheel. When the spinner stops, you look at the part the arrow points to. That's the winning part. The letter K is the letter of the winning part in this picture. The arrow is pointing at K. The fraction for the winning part is based on the spinner. There are 6 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many parts have the letter K? There is only one part that has the letter K. So the probability fraction for the spinner stopping at K is 1 out of 6. There's one letter K out of 6 pieces in all. Now, what is the probability for fraction? The probability fraction for H? 1, 2, 3 H's are on this wheel. So the probability would be 3 out of 6 in all. What's the probability fraction for P? There are 2 letter P's, making it 2 out of 6 in all. 2, 6. Each time you spin the wheel, you take a trial. Problem A. If you spin the wheel 30 times, what's the expected number for stopping at H? Write the probability equation for H in part A. The probability equation for part A is 3/6t equals H, because we know H shows up 3 times. 3/6 of the trials, 3/6t, t being trials, equals H, the letter H. Put in the number for the problem gives for trials and work the problem. Remember, each spin is a trial. Check your work. You worked the problems 3/6 times 30. Pause the video now to finish the problem. H equals 15. If you were to have 30 trials, you spun the wheel 30 times, you will probably get H 15 of those times. Problem B. About how many times would you expect to spin the wheel for it to stop at P 3 times? Well, we have P here 2 out of the 6 trials. So your equation would be 2/6t for trials equals P. And we know if you spun the wheel, or if you had P equals 3, so it'd be 3/6t equals 3. Pause the video now to finish the problem. The number 3 represents the number of times stopped at P. So 3 represents the letter P. Here is what you should have. And this is how you solve it. Problem C. If you spin the wheel 18 times, about how many times would you expect it to stop at K? Write the probability equation. Put in the number the problem gives, then stop. Continue when you're ready. Set up the equation. Here's what you should have. Now pause the video again to solve. If you spin the wheel 18 times, the expected number for stopping at K would be 3. Now please find part 2 in your textbook. To work these problems, you have to rewrite the fractions so they have the same denominator. Problem A. Tony finished the canoe race in 4 1/3 days. Henry finished the race in 6 3/4 days. How many days faster was Tony than Henry? Raise your hand. Can't raise your hand. So this is a subtraction problem. So pause the video now to solve. Here's what you should have. Problem B. A fuel tank had 15 5/8 gallons of gas in it. 7 9/16 more gallons were poured into the tank. It was added in. How many gallons ended up in the tank? So this would be an addition problem. Pause the video now to work the problem. Continue when you're ready to check your answer. Here is what you should have. Moving on to number names. These items describe decimal numbers. If you read each item correctly, you should be able to write the number. A, 5 3/10. 5 3/10. B, 17 hundredths. 17 hundredths. C, 204,000. 204,000. Pause the video now to write out these problems in decimal value. Here is what you should have. 5 3/10. The 3 is in the 10th column. 17 hundredths. 17 ends in the hundredths column. 204 thousandths. 204, the 4 is in the thousandths place. That's why that's written there. Find part 3 in your textbook. These items describe the decimal values you'll write. A, 113 thousandths. A, 113 thousandths. Do the rest on your own. Pause the video now, continue when you're ready to check your work. Here's what you should have. 11 5/10, 60 99 hundredths, 1 7 thousandths, 45 hundredths. When you're ready, find part 4 in your textbook. Part 4 in your textbook. These are word problems that tell about a fraction. Problem A, 5 out of every 7 packages were frozen. There were 35 frozen packages. How many packages were there in all? Write a fraction equation with 2 letters. The equation should read 5/7 P equals F. 5/7 P equals F. Now work the problem and write the answer. Pause the video now to do it. Continue when you're ready to check your work. Here is what you should have. Problem B. 2 out of every 9 bugs were spiders. There were 54 bugs. How many spiders were there? Work problem B. The equation you should have set up is 2/9 B equals S. 2/9 B equals S. Pause the video now to do the work. Continue when you're ready to check your answer. Here's what you should have. The rest of these problems will be part of your independent work, part C and D. Please turn to part 5 in your textbook. Part 5 in your textbook. For these problems, you'll simplify and then multiply. Remember, first cross out zeros in the numerator and denominator, then see if the other fractions can be simplified. Work problem A. You started with 45 100ths times 50/9. First, you crossed out zeros in 100 and 50, and you simplified 45 tenths and 9/9. The fraction answer is 5/2. The mixed number is 2 1/2. The answer is 2 1/2. You'll work the rest of the problem as part of independent work, which begins now. Your independent work is to finish up part 4 in your textbook, part 5 in your textbook, and parts 6 through 12 in your textbook, and workbook parts 2 and 3. If you have any questions, reach out to me on the chat feature on Teams. Otherwise, get busy.